So let's pull back the curtain. You have a paid training program where you mentor people, but this is a free podcast, free video. I want people to feel like they actually learned how to do it. You pay $1,000 and you make $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like tripling your money.
Yeah.
So pull back the curtain. Like, how does somebody listening actually do that?
This works whether you're in a $3,000 a month place or a $500 a month place. So don't pay attention so much to the number. So let's take $1,000 a month rental, like a 1-bedroom, and we're going to put it on Airbnb. And the reason that we can make $3,000 with it is because we're charging more per day or per night for somebody to stay there than what it costs us to control the property.
Right.
So if it's like $50 a night to control and we're charging $150 or $200 on Airbnb, then that difference is profit. So and then I got to pay utilities out of that. But pretty much you're able to make that spread between what you're paying for it and controlling it for and what you're making on Airbnb. And it's the same game that hotels play. So hotels pay their mortgage, but then they chop up that property into rooms, and each room is sold by the night. And there's a couple different ways to do that. You can control the property through a lease where you get the owner to sign on and get permission from them.
Is that the best case scenario?
I love that because you don't give the owner any of the profits. The agreement I have with owners is I keep all the profit and I just pay them what they're asking for. So they're already looking for a renter and I'm the renter.
So you basically find properties that are for rent.
Already for rent, already on the market. Yep.
On the market.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you look? Where do you look to find them?
Okay, there's a lot of places. I look online. You know, Craigslist surprisingly is still a great place to look. Local papers. I drive through neighborhoods. Signs in yards for rent signs are great places.
I thought you were going to say you do drive-bys.
I do drive-bys. Yeah, no, driving through neighborhoods is good because you're trying to get to the owner, not the property manager. And usually an owner will put a handwritten sign in the front yard so you know, oh, that's the owner. Local real estate investing associations are great. So you're basically presenting yourself as, hey, I'm the best tenant that you could lease this property to. And if you lease it to me, I'll lease it for many, many years and essentially just pitch them on the idea of what you're going to do.
So you are open and honest. You tell them, look, I'm going to put this on Airbnb because you don't want to surprise people.
No, you will get burned. You will get burned if you do it the other way.
Contract and kick you out.
Yeah, they could sue you and they could, who knows. So
do you have a special contract that actually they actually sign saying they understand what you're going to do?
It's an addendum. So I just use a standard lease and then a one-page addendum, essentially an add-on that just says, Brian Page is not going to live in this property and he has my permission to put this property on the home sharing sites and let guests stay there.
Yeah.
And so once they sign those two documents, then I'm good to go. The other way is to partner. And that's just simply like, hey, Ty, I see you got a house here for rent. You're asking $1,000. What if I get you $1,500 or $1,700 a month for that property with no extra work on your part?
Yeah.
Would you want to hear about it? Sure. Yeah. Tell me how that works. Well, I'm going to take your home, put it on Airbnb. I think it'll make $3,000, $3,500 a month. We'll split everything over the $1,000 that you need to get for your normal rent.
So you'll basically give them what they would. Guarantee you $1,000 and then 50-50 above that.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, tell me to take a hike and in 30, 60 days, I'll walk and we'll part ways. So that's a great model to go. And you look for furnished properties if you're going to do that.
And that's a good way, especially for people who maybe don't have good credit and can't actually lease something.
You don't need credit. You don't need credit and you're not even signing a lease. So you don't need to sign any paperwork.
So that lets you be able to walk away from it if you don't like it.
You can walk away. I mean, you want to put an agreement together that says this is our agreement, but it's not a lease that ties you in for any period of time.
So for anybody listening who's a little more fear-based, this is a good way to start.
This is the way to...
You make a little less money potentially because you don't control the property and get all the upside. I got people who follow me from every place on planet Earth, all over the US obviously, but almost every continent. First of all, where do you find properties in terms of not within the city, but are there cities way better than others? Do people have to move? What if they live in Detroit but want to do it in Chicago? Do you have people doing it remotely? Do you recommend people move? What about other countries, regulations?
Let's start first of all with the international, because I love talking about international. I have 38 countries represented, people that I've taught directly that have gone through my training and that are...
Because Airbnb is in how many?
Airbnb is in every country but North Korea. 75%, 3 of every 4 listings are not in the US right now.
Huh.
So yeah, most
So Airbnb is bigger outside the US.
Way bigger outside the US. And it's growing faster and there's more opportunity outside the US. So I'll give you an example, a couple different trips. I go to several countries a year. I was on the 16-country tour and I was in Egypt, and the guy that was giving me a camel ride around the pyramids had an Airbnb. And I asked him about it. He said, yeah, I make more money with my Airbnb than I do as the guide. So then I went to Costa Rica and was whitewater rafting down this river, and the rafting guide pointed to this house right as we went by. Beautiful house right on like a thatched roof hut kind of on the river. And he said, that's where I live. I said, that's gorgeous, this incredible river. And he said, yeah, I'm thinking about doing something called Airbnb. Have you heard of it? I was like, yeah, I've heard of it.
You should have said, you don't even know who you're talking to right now.
I was like, I've heard of it. So I said, how much do you pay in rent there? He said, $200 a month. That's standard for Costa Rica, $200 a month. He said, do you think I can make money with it? I said, dude, I just paid $65 a night for the hotel down the road, and it's a dump. I would have much rather pay you $65 to stay there, and you can do the math pretty quickly and see how much that could be worth to him. He said, you'll make a fortune if you put that on Airbnb. So there's huge opportunity overseas with this. So it does work in other countries. Really, the only thing you got to know is can you have access to the property? Can you get permission to use the property? Right. And if you can put it on Airbnb.
Now, in the U.S., aren't there some cities that have some regulations that's tough?
Yeah, so that's a good one I want to unpack, because this is something that most people do not teach. They don't even talk about it. Anybody who talks about Airbnb won't touch this. So we spent a lot of time doing research on what's going on with regulations right now, because Airbnb is a huge disruptor, just like Uber. They were fighting it in Vegas. They wouldn't allow Uber in certain cities. And then Uber started winning all these cities. Well, Airbnb is disrupting not only the real estate industry, it's disrupting hotels. And the cities that have the most powerful hotel unions and hotel brands, like New York City, for example. Let's see, San Francisco, big cities like that. It's very difficult to do Airbnb in those cities. And so I spent a significant sum of money with a research firm to go through 2,000 cities in the US. We researched every city over 30,000 people and whether or not home sharing is allowed or not allowed. We found 92% of them allow home sharing. So 8% are what I call red cities. Now that doesn't mean you can't do Airbnb if you live in those cities. You just simply have to go to the surrounding metro areas.
Like if you're in San Francisco, you can go out.
I've got students in San Francisco that are killing it.
Or something like that, or
Atlanta proper, but you can go to any of the towns around Atlanta. And the interesting thing is I have students that are doing it in those areas despite the rules, because half those cities don't enforce the rules at all. So I'm not saying you should break the rules, but there are people making a ton of money doing it despite the rules. And if you doubt me, just look up any city on Airbnb and you'll find thousands of listings, including Manhattan, for example. So I think the best way to build a business, though, is to do it properly and do it in a place that you're not going to ever be shut down, where it is allowed, where it's unrestricted. And there's so many cities you can do that.
And even if you're in a city that's restricted like Manhattan, you could go out into New Jersey,
go across the river,
Westchester. Or something.
I got students in New York. I got students in every major city.
Next step is, how do you keep it full? Because this whole thing, it's like a hotel. A hotel goes broke if only 30% of the time people are staying in. So how do you get good at putting a listing on Airbnb? So you like Airbnb?
I like Airbnb. It's the largest platform. It has the lowest fees. Much lower fees. And quite frankly, you don't need any other platform to build what I teach. So that's why I focus on Airbnb.
So keep it simple.
Keep it simple. The cool thing is, all the years I've done this and all of the people I've taught, thousands of people, none of them, including me, have ever spent a dime on advertising. So we don't spend any money on social media. We don't have to build a website. We don't have to spend any money to get people in the properties. Airbnb does all that for us. So the key is to have the best listing of its type in your area, because you're basically only competing with other Airbnbers. And luckily and thankfully, the vast majority of people, I'd say 98% of people on Airbnb, don't know what they're doing.
So what do they do wrong? Bad pictures? I've seen some bad pictures before. It's like dark.
Bad staging. They don't know how to stage it properly. They don't know how to paint a picture. So for example, if I have a place that has a view, then I want to not just show the view out the balcony. I want to have the Wall Street Journal and a coffee and a croissant sitting out there. So it's like, oh, I could see myself sitting there.
So it doesn't have to be super expensive.
It doesn't have to be expensive.
You can buy a croissant.
It's staging.
You could pull a croissant out of the trash can outside of Bagel Bros if you don't have much money. Put it there.
So it's the same thing hotels do. When you see hotels and they look amazing on Expedia, and then you get there and you're like, wow, this is a small room and it's nothing special. But they spend a lot of money on the photography.
Burger King, same thing.
Lighting is very important. So we're lit right here. You have to have it lit properly. You want to bring a professional photographer in, as we have a couple of these standing around. You want to have a wide angle lens camera, not an iPhone generally. And most people don't go to that trouble, because it is a little bit more hassle to go get a photographer. Like I hired a photographer a couple weeks ago, paid her $145. She's a real estate photographer. She came in, took her 1 hour. And the photos of that place when she was done, I mean, it's stunning. People were
But it's cheap. Wow. $145 might make you an extra $500, $600, $700, $800 a month.
You get one extra day in the next month. You paid for your.
And you only have to do pictures once. You can pretty much use them for, if you control the lease, for years.
You could do it once. You could do it once. So photos are vitally important. Studies show that you can get up to 300% more bookings with the right photo. So I'll give you an example. One of the condos I have is in a building with other condos, and it's a 1-bedroom. And the other one that's listed on Airbnb is a 1-bedroom in the same building, same floor plan. And I can charge $100 more a night for mine because the way it's staged, the way it's photographed, it doesn't even look like it's in the same universe as the other listing. And so when people are looking to book, they're like, do I want the $100 place or the $300 place? So I can afford the $300, I'm going to go with that one. And it's the same thing. It's just the way it's marketed and the way it looks.
Do you try to get places that are furnished?
Generally, I do. I always look for furnished places. Now, some cities, there's a lot of furnished places, and other cities, there's few.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a furnished property, then you do have to invest into furnishings if you're going to go with a vacant unit.
And you have a book, right? Does it go over some of this stuff? The course in the book?
I basically talk about more the money side and the numbers side, but I do have a book.
We'll put it, for those of you watching, I'm going to put a link below in the description.
So the staging and all that stuff is very important, but the numbers is really important. So let's talk about the numbers.
Yeah, let's talk numbers.
The pricing, at the end of the day, how do you price it?
Yeah,
right?
How do you price this thing? I like your model of you just charge 300 where everyone else charges 100.
Yeah.
You can literally do that. It's the Wild West, right?
Well, it's kind of the belief I have is anything will sell at the right price, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anything will sell if it's the right price. So you want to test the marketplace. You want the marketplace to tell you what to charge.
Yes.
So I try to charge as much as I possibly can every single week until the bookings stop.
Yes.
And when I hit that limit, I'm like, okay, I know 300 is the upper limit. Nobody's booking this place. Then I'll start lowering the price back down and see what happens. And what I do also is on the vacant days, I slash the prices aggressively. It's the same thing hotels do, same thing airlines do.
Yeah, airlines.
Right, you try to book a
some people are
ticket.
like, oh, is this ethical to change the price? I'm like, well, next time you're on an airplane, ask anyone sitting next to you.
What did you pay?
They did not pay the same as you. It's crazy.
It's insane.
And so hotels are the same thing. They basically call it, they load
Dynamic
balance.
pricing.
You keep it simple. You rent it for a week, let's say at $150. Then when the people move out, you say, let me try 200. And then if it gets rebooked.
Well, what I do is I always charge more on the weekends, significantly more, because on Airbnb, your weekends are going to fill immediately. Okay. So I charge more on the weekends.
How much more? Like on $100
well, for example, if I'm charging $150 on a weekday, I'll charge $200 to $225 on the weekend, maybe $250.
So you'll go up maybe 50%.
50% more on a weekend. Yep. And what I'll do is, let's say I'm listing a property for the first time. I just listed a property 2 months ago, and it was brand new. I didn't know. It was in a neighborhood where nobody had any Airbnbs, and I'd never been in that neighborhood. And I listed it. I just said, I'm going to just pull a big number out, like $300 a night, and see if anybody books it. Well, I had like 2 bookings for over the course of the next 60 days. And I thought, well, that's not very good. So I let it sit for another few days. And then I lowered the price to $275. Now I got more bookings. So now I suddenly got, like, say, the next 30 days booked. I'm happy with that. 30 days out is fine. So I know around $275. Is
that a goal, kind of 30 days out?
30 days out. Because what I don't want to happen, this is the biggest mistake people make, is they'll pick a price and then their calendar will have it open. And then suddenly all the weekends get booked out for 4 months.
Yes.
And they're like, I'm so excited. I'm like, that's not a good thing, because you probably underpriced those weekends if they booked out that fast.
And also, sometimes you're going to lose out on the weekday. Someone just took the cream, they took the dessert, and you're left with the vegetables trying to sell the vegetables.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the weekdays are going to fill not as fast. And so let's say the weekdays start filling up at $150 a night. And then I have this 10 days on my calendar that I can't fill. Well, most people would just let that go and they lose that money. But what I'll do is I'll cut the price even further. So if I charge $100 a night on a unit that I'm getting as much as $300 for or $275 for, I will have gained another $1,000 a month on that. Yeah. So you can charge less and make more. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you charge. It only matters what you bring in. And any vacancy you have, you're making $0 that day.
How the heck do you manage all these people and ideally automate it? Because you've got 12 properties. You guys said you're looking at what, another 15, 16, 17?
Looking at a package of 17.
So you don't want to go crazy, because obviously when you're managing the Airbnb, people are annoying. They're like, I can't get in the room. Where's the key? Yeah. It's dirty. Blah, blah. I mean, I can imagine all of a sudden you're almost like babysitting people. So how do you manage that in a scalable way? So what's the automation secrets?
Okay, so when you have 1 or 2 listings on Airbnb, it's cute, it's fun, it's easy to manage. When you start getting 5, 6, 10, 15 listings, it gets to be a lot of work. And essentially what you're doing is you're running a hotel, but it's a distributed hotel. So instead of rooms all in one place where it's easy to manage, you've got rooms all over the city or in multiple cities, multiple states. You're trying to manage all these things. And that tends to be a job. So you have people that are messaging you. They're first of all, they're reaching out to you to say, hey, will you take a discount on these days? Or will you allow me to book? Or can I bring my Shih Tzu with me? Or, you know, all kinds of random stuff they'll reach out to you about. And so you got to accept or deny their bookings and their requests. Then when they come stay in the place, they're going to have questions, you know, like, where do I go to find a cool restaurant? Or, you know, what's the address again? How do I get in? Where's the key? All that kind of stuff. So when you do that multiplied by, let's say 8 guests checking in out of 8 properties every single day, it ends up being a lot of work, just the messaging itself. Now you have to coordinate the cleaners. So the cleaning crew has to come in and they got to be coordinated. And what if something breaks? Who's going to take care of that? Who's going to fix something if it breaks? So all these things have to be managed.
Or if they trash it, or
if they trash it. Well, it hasn't happened. Knock on fabric, but but
that's good. So nobody's trashing.
No, I've had messy guests. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard of a student that said, look, somebody destroyed my property.
Does Airbnb have an insurance policy
They
helping
do.
you? So that's nice.
They have a $1 million host protection insurance where they'll pay out. But I recommend going a step beyond that and getting actual insurance. It's very inexpensive.
Privately.
Yeah, you get short-term rental insurance.
On each property that
on each
you're
property,
controlling.
and you make the owner the beneficiary, so they're protected.